Okay, let's just go at it right now from the top because we need to, plot some time on this. I think that the idea that the 12-team playoff will allow us to settle it on the field is actually a fallacy. Like, I think that there's this idea that because there are more teams getting in, that we're going to be more satisfied with the results at the end of the year. And that might be true to a certain extent. But when you think about how hard it was to get into the 4-team playoff, the excellence that it demanded to get into that 4-team situation, there are a hell of a lot more teams, especially this season, that fall into tier B than the 5 or 6 extra that we're going to get. And I think there are going to be a lot of teams that have a real claim to get in at the end of the year that don't. And I'm not saying that I will feel the same empathy towards those teams that I would like Florida State a year ago. But like, there are a lot of scenarios. We are very far along into the season where the teams at the end of the year who are left out are going to have a real gripe. And people in the committee room are going to have to make the decisions of who goes and who doesn't. And there are going to be decisions made by people that are replacing games. And I think that we are going to find that out in a really big way this year. I was on Kings of the North with Doug and Bill last night, and it really hit me. Doug did a good job of driving it home, but it's true.
Because they're worried Southern teams are going to get in over Northern teams. And
No. I think that we both did, or all three of us did a bracket. And I think there was a collection of 5 to 7 teams that were out in at least one of our brackets with very similar results. Because if you look at what's left in the season, there's not, it's college football, upsets will certainly happen, but there's
have you watched college football in November before?
Yeah, no, I know. And it's like, it's possible that, everybody loses and there's no problem. But if you look at the way that this season is shaping out, the remaining schedules of the good teams that are there, like, I'm envisioning situations like what happens if we have a 11-1 Indiana versus a 10-2 Alabama at the end of the year.
You won't. They'll both get in.
Okay, so we're gonna keep doing that. Okay, so we'll keep both getting into everybody, and then we're gonna get there. And it's
no. In that particular case, they're gonna both get in. I'm just telling you.
What happens with Tennessee in that scenario?
Is Tennessee 10-2?
Texas A&M. There's a lot of teams that are going to be 10-2 this year, Andy. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
No, there's not. Again, have you watched November football before?
Okay.
So, all right, let me explain to you what's happened to you. You were so hilariously wrong about the 12-team playoff and your complaints about it that you're trying to grasp at anything to say that it won't be better than what it was. It's so much better. Knock. And here's the thing. Team doesn't get in, like at large number 12 doesn't get in because somebody from who's a conference champ got in at 12. I don't care. Their fans will care. I don't care. They should have won more games.
Yeah, I don't want to go down a path of better or worse because I think that the games that we're going to get,
there's no argument.
Okay, that's great. I'm talking about what could happen. I'm not. This isn't what that's about. I don't give a shit about that anymore. It's
okay,
over.
Well, all right. Well, let me help you with this one too. All the stuff you're talking about, the complaints, the angst, feature not bug. Ari, we run a college football talk show. Do you know what that gives us?
I don't know that I'm even
something
saying
to
it's
talk
a bug.
about.
I feel like you're not hearing what I'm saying. I'm saying that the notion that it will be settled on the field in this playoff.
It will be. Because you, person who said teams 5 through 12 don't even deserve to be there.
Yeah.
If they don't even deserve to be there, it doesn't matter. Because the teams that deserve to be there will be in it. And if they win, they win. If they don't, well, they didn't. Maybe they weren't that good anyway.
That's exactly how I feel. But if you have 5 to 6 teams.
But if they beat those teams, if the 5 through 12 beat the 1 through 4, oh, well.
I'm just saying at the end of the year, there's a high likelihood that Texas will be a 1-loss team, that Georgia will be a 1-loss team, that Tennessee will be a 2-loss team, that Alabama will be a 2-loss team, that Indiana will be a 1-loss team, that Ohio State will be a 1-loss team, that Penn State will be a 1-loss team, that Oregon will be undefeated. There's going to be a lot of teams.
How many teams did you just name? Name them. Like, how many teams did you just name?
I think like 7 or 8.
Count them up.
Yeah.
Count them up.
And I know there's 12. We didn't get to the ACC and we did not get to the Big 12 yet. I was just afraid that you were going to interrupt me when I was talking. Like, I'm talking to you about the fact that there's going to be 15 teams potentially with 2 losses at the end of the year, and there are going to be 3 or 4 teams that people in a boardroom are going to decide who gets in.
Okay.
And when they do that, there are going to be 3 teams that feel like that they weren't settled on the field. Because I think that we were anticipating.
Then they should have won more games.
I know, but we're still going to be subjectively choosing between who goes in, who doesn't in a boardroom. And this is what's supposed to be avoided in this system.
Well, so should we expand it to 16? That sounds like what you want.
I'm sure that's what we're going to do. And then when we get there, there's going to be even more teams that are 9-3. The problem, so what you just said makes my point. The further that you expand it, you don't make it cleaner, you make it messier, because the more you expand it, the more teams in the secondary tier you introduce, because there's probably going to be 9-3 teams. So if you go to 16 or 18, you're going to have to choose between even more teams. And the thing
I heard all these stupid arguments when Bill Hancock was getting paid to make them, and then he got paid to make different arguments because the commissioners wanted a bigger playoff. It's the cleaner.
I don't want to argue about whether it's better or worse. That's not the point I'm trying to make.
Because it's better. There is no argument.
I accept that. It's better. Can we focus on what I'm trying to tell you now?
Yeah. I'm telling you that doesn't matter. What you're worried about is the whole point of the thing.
I'm telling you that the number one selling point of the 12-team playoff era is that it promotes better games, and that when it promotes those games, and by the way, Clemson loses to Miami in the ACC championship, playing that extra game that everybody's promoting is going to cost them a chip to the playoff. By the way, when they played that Georgia game,
win the games.
Okay, but when you say before the year that the 12-team playoff era is going to promote scheduling better games because they don't matter as much, you're wrong. That's not true. Clemson will prove it this year. Playing Georgia cost them a trip to the playoff.
What if Georgia loses to Tennessee?
Then this is going to get even worse.
Georgia's win against Clemson is going to get them in.
Because what's going to happen at the end of the year if Texas A&M is a 2-loss team, Alabama's a 2-loss team, Tennessee is a 2-loss team.
Notre Dame's a 1-loss team.
And Notre Dame's a 1-loss team. You have 2 undefeated teams playing in the Big 12 championship game. You have 2 unbeaten teams in the ACC playing. You have SMU there with 1 loss. There's going to be a lot of problems here.
I know you can just say. November works.
I know you can just say that it's November and that everything's going to fall apart, and you're probably going to be right. I'm just telling you right now. If you look at the schedules, we are pretty far along in the season. And there aren't a lot of it's go ahead and say that Miami's going to lose to Duke, like some people are saying. They're 21 and a half point favorite.
I think Miami's going to be 12-0. But I
do
look
think
at
the remaining schedules of the teams. There's not a lot of opportunity for the whole thing to just completely fall apart, is what I'm saying. At the end of the year, I think we're going to have 5 teams that have a legitimate chance to get in or case to get in that won't. And that makes
Rocky
it worse.
Top Tom doesn't even understand his own argument. He's in the chat arguing that there should be no playoff. He says the entire playoff system came from people crying that everyone should get a trophy. No, the bowl system is everyone crying that everyone should get a trophy. In the bowl system, 30 teams leave with a trophy. Rocky Top Tom, you need to understand your own arguments before you try to make them.
And one thing that we have to do, and I know this got kind of heated, but we both need to make a bracket and then we need to go through it. Because going through the exercise last night with Bill and Doug, opened my eyes of holy crap, that you can make 10 different brackets that all make sense. And if they all, and then if the season plays out similarly, you still get to different results. This
was the entire point. That's why they did it.
All I am saying is this is dirtier. It's not cleaner. And people thought it was going to be cleaner. It's going to be dirtier.
What people? Dumb people?
The settle it on the field people, one of which is you.
The best teams will settle it on the field.
Okay, so how is that different from last year?
You could have had more teams settling it on the field. I don't care. I want more good games. There's a reason every other sports league in the world has a tournament of a similar size to decide a champion.
Yeah, because this year is actually kind of strange, the results in college football. There are more teams that are in the I thought coming into the year that a 9-3 team could get in. And that's not going to happen now.
There's only one 9-3 team that can get in, and they're not running the table.
Yeah, well, I beg to differ. I think Florida's going.
They live in the town where I live, but they'd have to run the table, and they're not doing that. This show is brought to you by Panini America, makers of the most collectible sports cards on the planet. The Luminance Football Card Series features NIL autograph cards from players including Arch Manning, Quinn Ewers, Cam Ward, Jalen Milroe, Dylan Raiola, DJ Lagway, and Luther Burden. And to start collecting, visit PaniniAmerica.net. I actually have a pack of Luminance right here. We ripped a pack yesterday. We got a Joe Milton autograph card that producer River's going to get. Well, let's see what we get. And you know, like we're going to establish this is how the game is played. You know, we're going to look at these guys. We're going to see, you know, who each player is. We'll name where they went to college because that's the game I always play. And who knows, we may get something special here. Ari,
you got accused of getting a juiced pack yesterday.
I don't think so. I just think the gods smiled on us and knew producer River was dying to get a Joe Milton autograph. So, but
I thought we would be having a hard time finding teams, but there are a lot of really good, like BYU's emergence, Iowa State's emergence.
Good thing.
Yeah.
All good things.
The only time in the 4-team era that we had a debate about whether they got it right, and like we're sick to our stomachs about it, was last year when Florida State had that weird injury with Jordan Travis.
Right.
That was the only time in the 4-team field that it felt unjust. The 12-team playoff era is going to feature a lot more at the end of the year.
And again,
decisions that are going to feel unjust. That's all I'm saying.
And I'm not going to feel sorry for the team that gets left out because they could have won another game.
Because that's and I found this out about myself last night. Because when I went on the show, I said the first thing I said was exactly what you just said. I said, I will not feel bad for 13, 14, and 15. Because if you're not good enough to be 5, then who gives a shit, right? Like, I'm with you on that. Are we 1,000% sure, Andy? 1,000% sure that if there are 4 teams in the SEC that are 10-2 at the end of the year, and Clemson is a 2-loss team that lost in the ACC, or even if Clemson's a undefeated ACC champ with the only loss coming to Georgia, and Miami only has 1 loss, that Indiana is 1,000% in at 11-1. Are we sure about that? Like, are you sure? Like,
I'm sure.
And it's like, because I don't think that that's guaranteed at all. Like, I think that it is possible that Alabama would get chosen over them if it comes down to one last spot because they will have a win over Georgia. You know how this goes. Who you beat is more important than what your record is. So,
well, then Indiana should beat Ohio State.
And then if Indiana,
somebody else.
Well, that's the thing, though. It's like Indiana would, in this scenario, would have done more with their schedule blowing. Literally, they haven't won a game by less than 14 this year. If they go on the road
also is
to
something
Ohio
the committee
State,
will take into account.
I understand. I'm not saying they can't get in. I am pushing back.
You're inventing a scenario that's almost impossible. All right, let's make a bet. If Indiana goes 11-1 and doesn't get in, what do I have to do? What embarrassing thing do I have to shave my head? What do I have to do?
Let's make that bet if there are more teams that I'm talking about. I'll make that bet with you.
Okay, because I'm telling you right now, an 11-1 Indiana will get in. Now, I think we're actually still making big assumptions on that there's going to be an 11-1 Indiana. And you know me, I'm Mr. Hoosier at this point. Like, that is not a given. And we fall into this trap every year, usually around this time of year, where we say everything's going to be chalk from here on out. It is not. What always back in the day when the SEC would have the weekend of cupcakes, we'd be like, this weekend's going to suck. There's going to be nothing that happens this weekend that's interesting. And some mind-blowing upset would happen. There will be those.
I know
there will be all of those.
Yeah, I understand. I understand the concept of upsets in November. I get it. All I'm saying is that we are at a point in the year that's further along than I anticipated, with more teams that are alive than I anticipated that have very easy schedules down the stretch. Very easy schedules. If you look at the teams that are still alive, and we need to do this. I need to sit down and do this exercise where I figure out how many teams are still alive and look at their schedules. There's a lot of 22. We've got a 22 point spreads all over the place. We're not talking about games that are 4 or 5. These are we're going to, at a certain point, you are going to have to start counting on Duke to beat Miami, games like that to happen. for this to get a little bit cleaner. And the only point I was trying to make, and I really did not want to get into a debate about whether it's better or worse. I don't think that's relevant. The point I'm making is this system is going to produce more shafting than the last one.
At a lower level. Last year, an undefeated team that won a power conference got left out. That is not happening this year. That is never happening again.
Right. So if you don't care about the lower level, that's okay. I didn't think I did.
They don't. We know that.
I didn't think that I did. Like coming into the year, like I was like, oh yeah, if you're 13, screw off.
But this has made you care more about the Mountain West race than the American race.
It's
like
made
that
me
also
care.
was part of the point.
I found myself, and it's funny coming from me, more attached to Indiana than I thought I would be. And if Indiana doesn't get in because they lose a close game to Ohio State, and then they send a 2-loss Alabama team or a 2-loss team from the SEC, because if Alabama goes, that means Tennessee has to go, right? You can't do one without the other,
right?
Unless it's Tennessee only. And then Indiana gets screwed because they didn't beat Georgia at the end of the year. That's gonna freaking suck. And that scenario didn't exist last year. And Indiana might not have this opportunity again for a while.
Florida State got screwed last year, so they could put Alabama in. So
yeah. I'm saying though, like the thing that kind of annoys me is that the 12-team thing was about inclusion for a lot of people.
All right, I got it. If 11-1 Indiana gets left out of the playoff, your USC bet loss is forgiven.
Okay. I mean, don't make me root against it now. I mean, like the thing that bothers me, Andy, is you can't spend all year. And I'm not saying you. I just mean
scenario that's not going to happen.
Okay.
To make as the tent pole of your argument, that's not going to happen. Like now, is there a chance that a 10-2 Alabama gets in over some other team that you think is deserving? That's also a 2-loss team. Yeah,
I think it might happen to 3 teams this year at once.
Guess we'll find out.
And if they choose the helmet over the resume, or if they choose the helmet over a team that I deem deserving, I think that's bullshit still.
That's fine. And come on the show and argue about it.
We will. So I don't know.
Saucy take number 2.
I don't know. Is that not a saucy? Like, you have to rate the take. Like, I don't even know.
It's not a saucy take at all, because it's wrong. It's just wrong.
I don't even know.
So I guess it's kind of saucy because, like,
I don't even know
it's
right
saucy in its wrongness.
What is there to be wrong about? That all teams are going to get screwed is wrong.
That's. I mean, if you think so, you're the one who said you're not as sympathetic toward that team that is number.
But I did find out about myself. I did find out about myself that I might actually be more sympathetic to those teams than I thought.
Look at your heart has grown like 3 sizes, Ari.
Yeah, I don't know if it's northern poisoning, but like I do feel like there are teams that, and like I'll feel really bad for Clemson if they lose to Miami in the ACC championship game and then lose because they scheduled a big game. Like, that's going to suck. So,
well, that is a result the committee should try to avoid, because you want people to schedule good games. Like, you want to reward those. Stephen Wilson in the chat says it's medium spicy. So I'll go with medium spicy. What else?
I actually thought you were going to be like, it's not spicy, because we know that, but I don't care. Like, that's what I thought you were going to say.
Well, I don't really care. But I do think it's like,
I don't even know what you think I'm wrong about.
I think it's funny that you cannot handle being so wrong about this that you got to keep shoveling dirt on it.
That's so. I swear to you, that's not my. I'm not even.
Rocky Top Tom's in the chat still arguing about bowl games like anybody cares.